I never questioned why Mr. Castellano's office had bulletproof glass. I was 23, fresh out of business school, and desperate enough to take a job that paid twice the market rate for a personal assistant. The job listing had been vague. High-profile executive seeks discreet, organized assistant. Odd hours. Excellent pay. For 6 months, I'd worked in his penthouse office overlooking the city, managing his calendar, taking calls in Italian I didn't understand, and pretending not to notice the men in dark suits who came and went at all hours. Dominic Castellano was 34, impossibly controlled, and treated me with the distant politeness of someone who'd forgotten I was human. He never raised his voice, never smiled. His instructions were always calm, precise, delivered in that low voice that made my stomach tighten in ways I didn't want to examine. I told myself he was just intense, demanding, a perfectionist CEO with privacy issues. I told myself a lot of things. It was a Tuesday when everything shattered. I'd arrived early, as always, letting myself into the silent office with my keycard. The marble floors gleamed in the pre-dawn light. I set down my bag, started the coffee machine, pulled up his schedule, and froze. The door to his private study, the one I was never, ever allowed to enter, stood open. Just slightly. A sliver of darkness in the otherwise pristine space. I should have walked away. Should have texted him, waited, minded my own business like I'd been doing for half a year, but something pulled me forward. Curiosity. Instinct. The same feeling you get right before your life changes forever. I pushed the door open. The room was smaller than I'd imagined. Dark wood paneling, a single desk, and covering one entire wall photographs. Dozens of them. Surveillance shots. Faces circled in red. Notes in Italian scrawled across maps of the city. My breath caught. And then I saw it. My own face, pinned to the center of the board. My employee photo, but also others me leaving my apartment, walking to the subway, sitting in a coffee shop. Someone had been watching me, tracking me. I was wondering when you'd find this. The voice came from behind me, so calm it sent ice down my spine. I spun around. Dominic stood in the doorway, perfectly dressed as always. Charcoal suit, dark tie, not a hair out of place. But his eyes, God, his eyes were different. Colder, older. Like a mask had finally slipped. Mr. Castellano, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to close the door behind you, Mia. It wasn't a request. My hands shook as I obeyed, suddenly aware of how small the room was, how alone we were, how no one knew I was here. He moved past me, his presence filling the space, and stopped in front of the board. His gaze swept over the photographs with something like resignation. "Do you know what these people have in common?" he asked quietly. I shook my head, unable to find my voice. "They betrayed me." He touched one photo, a man's face, crossed out in black. "He sold information to a rival family. He's dead now." Another photo. "She tried to steal from me. Also dead." His finger drifted to my picture. "And you, Mia, you've been asking questions." "What?" "No, I haven't. You searched my name last month, on your personal laptop." His voice remained eerily calm. "You looked up property records, asked your roommate if she'd heard of Castellano imports." My blood turned to ice. He'd been monitoring me, my computer, my conversations. "I was just curious," I whispered. I didn't find anything, because I made sure you wouldn't." He turned to face me fully, and for the first time in 6 months, he really looked at me. Studied me. "You're either very brave or very stupid, Mia. I haven't decided which. I don't understand what's happening." "Yes, you do." He took a step closer. "You've known for months that something wasn't right. You've ignored it because the money was good. Because you wanted to believe I was just another businessman with secrets." Another step. "But you're not stupid. So tell me, what do you think I am?" The word formed in my mind, impossible and terrifying. "Mafia," I breathed. He smiled then. It was the first time I'd ever seen him smile, and it was the most frightening thing I'd ever witnessed. Beautiful and cold as winter. Close enough. The Castellano family controls 70% of the shipping routes in and out of this city. We move cargo that customs will never see. We settle disputes that courts can't touch. He tilted his head slightly. And 6 months ago, someone leaked information about a shipment to the FBI. That leak came from someone in my organization, someone I trusted. That has nothing to do with me. Your uncle, Robert Chen, is a federal prosecutor. The room tilted. He specializes in organized crime. Dominic continued, his voice soft, relentless. And 2 weeks before you applied for this position, he opened an investigation into my family's operations. He paused. That's quite a coincidence, don't you think? I didn't know, I said desperately. I swear I didn't know about any of this. My uncle and I barely speak. I know. I blinked. What? I know you didn't know. I've had people watching you since the day you walked into the interview. Every call, every text, every email. You're not working for him. You're not working for anyone? He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive. But that doesn't mean you're not a liability. My back hit the wall. I hadn't even realized I'd been retreating. What are you going to do to me? The question came out broken, terrified. For a long moment, he just looked at me. Something flickered in his expression, consideration, maybe. Or calculation. If you betray me again, he said quietly. If you speak to your uncle, if you go to the police, if you tell anyone what you've seen, I will know, and I won't be merciful. He raised one hand, and I flinched, but he only brushed his knuckles against my cheek. The touch was gentle. Wrong. Do you understand me, Mia? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Say it. I won't betray you. Again, he corrected. You won't betray me again. The word hung between us like a noose. I won't betray you again, I whispered. He held my gaze for 3 more heartbeats, then stepped back. Good. Go home. Take the day off. When you come back tomorrow, we'll never speak of this again. He straightened his cuffs, the casual gesture at odds with everything that had just happened. Unless you do something foolish, then we'll speak of it one last time. I fled. I didn't remember calling the elevator, didn't remember the ride down, didn't remember the walk to the subway. I just ran, my heart pounding, his words echoing in my skull. If you betray me again, but I'd never betrayed him the first time. Had I? I didn't go to the police. I told myself it was because I had no proof. Because who would believe me? Because he'd know the moment I tried. But the truth was simpler and more pathetic. I was terrified. For 3 days, I stayed in my apartment, ignoring calls from the office, jumping at every sound in the hallway. My roommate asked if I was okay. I lied. I'd gotten good at lying. On the 4th day, a package arrived. Inside was my laptop, the personal one I'd used to search Dominic's name. The screen had been replaced. A note sat on top of the keyboard, written in elegant script. Fresh start. Don't waste it. DC. He'd wiped it clean. Removed any trace of my searches, my curiosity, my mistake. Part of me felt relieved. The other part felt like a mouse in a cage watching the cat toy with the lock. I went back to work the next morning. The office looked the same. Smelled the same. The coffee machine gurgled its familiar rhythm. Everything was normal, except I could feel the weight of cameras I'd never noticed before. The presence of danger hiding behind every polished surface. Dominic was already there when I arrived. He glanced up from his desk, expression neutral. Good morning, Mia. Good morning, Mr. Castellano. Coffee's ready. I need you to rearrange this afternoon's meetings. Something's come up. Just like that. As if nothing had happened. As if he hadn't threatened my life 4 days ago, I moved through my tasks in a daze, hyper-aware of every moment he was in the room. The way he moved, economical, purposeful. The way he spoke on the phone code words I now understood weren't about shipping containers at all. The way his eyes tracked me when he thought I wasn't looking, that was new. Or maybe it had always been there, and I'd been too naive to see it. Around noon, 2 men arrived. I recognized one Luca, Dominic's driver, built like a wall, and just as expressive. The other was older, silver-haired, expensive suit. Is he expecting you? I asked, hand hovering over the intercom. The older man smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. He's always expecting me, sweetheart. I'm his father. My stomach dropped. Before I could respond, Dominic's door opened. It's fine, Mia. His voice was calm, but his body language had shifted, shoulders tighter, jaw set. Hold my calls. They disappeared inside. The door clicked shut. For 20 minutes, I heard nothing. Then, muffled shouting in Italian, rapid and angry. Something heavy hit the floor. I gripped my desk, heart racing. The door opened. Dominic's father emerged first, face flushed with fury. He glanced at me, lips curling. Be careful with that one, he said to his son. She has her uncle's eyes. Then he was gone. Dominic stood in the doorway, breathing carefully, controlled. A thin cut marked his cheekbone, fresh blood, dark against his skin. What happened? The question slipped out before I could stop it. His gaze snapped to mine. For a moment, I thought he'd tell me to mind my own business, remind me of my place. Instead, he said, get the first aid kit. I found it in the bathroom cabinet, hands shaking. When I returned, he'd rolled up his sleeves and sat on the edge of my desk, utterly composed except for that single wound. You don't have to, he started. Let me. I didn't know why I said it, didn't know why I stepped closer when every instinct screamed to run. But I did. He went very still as I dabbed antiseptic on the cut. This close, I could see details I'd avoided noticing before: the faint scar along his jaw, the exhaustion hidden beneath his control, the way his pulse beat at his throat. He thinks you're a spy, Dominic said quietly. My father? Am I? The words came out steadier than I felt. No. He studied my face with unnerving intensity. If you were, you'd already be dead. I should have stepped back then. Should have put distance between us. But I didn't. And neither did he. Why am I still here? I whispered. If I'm such a risk, why not just let me go? His hand came up, catching my wrist. Not rough, not gentle. Somewhere in between, his thumb pressing against my racing pulse. Because I don't know yet, he said, if you're my greatest mistake or my last honest thing. The words landed like a confession. Before I could process them, he released me and stood. Go home early. Take tomorrow off too. But, Mia, he met my eyes. People know who you are now. My father isn't the only one watching. Until I can guarantee your safety, I need you away from here. You're protecting me. I'm protecting me investment. But something in his expression cracked, just slightly. And yes, you. He left without another word, taking Luca and 2 other guards I hadn't noticed lurking in the hallway. I stood alone in the office, the scent of his cologne still lingering, my wrist burning where he'd touched it. For 6 months, I'd thought Dominic Castellano was untouchable, unreachable, a cold, perfect machine in an expensive suit. But I'd seen the blood on his cheek, heard the rawness in his voice. And God help me, some broken part of me wanted to understand what had put it there. That night I dreamed of dark rooms and surveillance photos, of his hand on my wrist, his voice in my ear. If you betray me again, I woke gasping, sheets tangled, knowing with absolute certainty that I was in far more danger than I'd realized, not from his enemies, from the way I'd stopped being afraid of him. The flowers arrived on my day off, white lilies, a full arrangement, expensive, with a card that read simply, Stay inside today, DC. I stared at them for a full minute, trying to decode the message. A threat? A warning? Something else entirely? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. There's a car downstairs. Use it if you need anything. Don't use the subway. I went to the window. Sure enough, a black sedan idled at the curb, conspicuous in my neighborhood of broken parking meters and corner bodegas. He was having me watched, protected, controlled. I should have been furious. Instead, I felt something uncomfortably close to relief. For 2 days, I stayed in my apartment like a prisoner in a gilded cage. My roommate was visiting family, so I had the place to myself, just me and the flowers, and the knowledge that somewhere out there, Dominic Castellano was moving pieces on a board I couldn't see. On the 3rd day, he called, Can you come to my home tonight? His voice sounded tired. Strained. Not the office, my home. I'll send a car. Why? A pause. Because I'm asking. He'd never asked me for anything before. Only ordered, demanded, expected. Okay, I heard myself say. The car arrived at 8. Luca drove in silence through increasingly wealthy neighborhoods until we reached a gated estate that looked like it belonged in a different century. Wrought iron, stone walls, gardens that probably cost more to maintain than my yearly salary. The mansion itself was beautiful and cold all marble and dark wood, and art that belonged in museums. Dominic met me in the foyer. He'd shed the suit jacket. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, tie loosened, hair slightly disheveled. He looked human. Dangerously, devastatingly human. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Did I have a choice?" "Always." His eyes held mine. "I've never forced you to stay, Mia. You know where the door is." He was right. I could have quit 6 months ago, could have refused to return after that day in his office, could have left this very moment. But I didn't. "Why am I here?" I asked instead. He gestured for me to follow him through halls lined with family portraits, generations of Castellanos, all with the same dark eyes and aristocratic features. We ended in a library that smelled of leather and old paper. A fire crackled in the hearth. On a side table sat 2 glasses of wine and a folder. "Sit," he said, and for once, it didn't sound like a command. I sat. He handed me the folder. "Open it." Inside were documents, bank statements, emails, photographs of my uncle meeting with men I didn't recognize. "Your uncle has been building a case against my family for 2 years, Dominic said quietly. "But it's not about justice. He's being paid by the Vitali family, our rivals. They want us out so they can control our territory." I stared at the evidence, my stomach churning. My uncle is corrupt. Most people are, given the right incentive. He took the seat across from me, firelight dancing across his features. "I'm showing you this because you deserve to know who you're really related to. And because..." He hesitated, a crack in his usual certainty. "Because I need you to understand that my world isn't black and white. We're all just different shades of gray." "Is that supposed to make me feel better about working for you?" "No." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "It's supposed to make you understand why I can't let you go. Why I won't. You're caught in the middle of something that started long before you walked into my office, and the only way to keep you alive is to keep you close." "Or let me disappear," I whispered. "They'd find you." His voice hardened. "The Vitals know who you are. They know you work for me. They'll assume you know things, whether you actually do or not. The only protection you have now is my name. So I'm trapped. You're protected." He stood, moved to the fire, his profile sharp against the flames. "There's a difference. I should have argued, should have demanded he let me go, should have been furious at being used as a pawn in someone else's war, but looking at him, at the tension in his shoulders, the careful control that seemed more like exhaustion, I realized something terrifying. He was trapped too. "The cut on your face," I said softly. "Your father did that." He touched it unconsciously. "He thinks I'm weak, sentimental, that keeping you alive is a mistake. Maybe he's right. Maybe." He turned to face me, "but I've made my choice." The weight of those words settled between us, heavy, significant, dangerous. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now, you stay here tonight. Tomorrow you come back to work. We pretend everything is normal while I handle the Vitali problem." He moved closer, stopping just before my chair. "And you trust that I won't let anything happen to you." "Why should I trust you?" "Because I've had a dozen opportunities to hurt you, and I haven't. Because I could have let my father deal with you, and I didn't. Because..." His voice dropped, rough and raw. "Because you're the first person in 10 years who's looked at me like I'm still human." My breath caught. He crouched down so we were eye level, and the gesture was so unexpected, so deliberately non-threatening, that my heart cracked. "I won't lie to you, Mia. I've done terrible things. I'll do more terrible things before this is over. But I swear to you on everything I will keep you safe." His hand reached out, hovering near my face, asking permission. I should have pulled away. Instead, I closed the distance. His palm cupped my cheek, warm and steady. His thumb brushed beneath my eye, catching a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. "Don't cry," he murmured. "I'm not worth it." "Maybe I'm not crying for you," I whispered. "Maybe I'm crying for the person I was 6 months ago. Before all of this. She's not gone. Just hidden, protected." His hand slipped away, leaving cold in its wake. "Get some sleep. Luca will show you to a guest room." He left before I could respond, disappearing into the shadows of his family home like a ghost in his own story. I sat alone by the fire. The evidence of my uncle's corruption spread before me, and realized I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. I'd chosen a side. Not because of money, not because of threats, but because somewhere in the past few days, Dominic Castellano had stopped being my dangerous boss and become something far more terrifying. Someone I wanted to understand, to trust, to protect in return. I fell asleep in that library, surrounded by generations of violence and power, and dreamed of his hand on my face, his voice promising safety in a world where safety didn't exist. Outside, the guards patrolled the grounds, and somewhere in the city, his enemies planned their next move. But for one night, I let myself believe that his promise was enough. The office felt different after that night. Or maybe I was different. I noticed things I'd trained myself to ignore, the way Dominic's guards positioned themselves at exits, the careful language he used on certain calls, the moments when his mask slipped and I saw the calculation beneath. But I also saw other things. The way he took his coffee black when he was tired, the habit he had of touching his watch when he was thinking, the barely perceptible softening of his expression when I walked into a room. Small things, human things, dangerous things to notice. "You're staring," he said one afternoon, not looking up from his laptop. I jerked my attention back to my screen. "Sorry." "Don't apologize. I'm just noting it." When I glanced up, his eyes held a hint of amusement. "For the record, I stare back when you're not looking." Heat flooded my cheeks. "Mr. Record, Castellano, Dominic." He closed his laptop. "When we're alone, call me Dominic." The intimacy of his first name felt forbidden, significant. "I don't think that's appropriate," I managed. "Nothing about this is appropriate, Mia." He stood, moving to the window that overlooked the city. "But we're long past pretending otherwise, aren't we?" Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his expression shuddered completely. "We have a problem." Within minutes, the office filled with men, Luca and 3 others I recognized, plus 2 I didn't, harder, older, with the kind of scars that told stories. They spoke in rapid Italian. I caught maybe 1 word in 10, but I understood the tone. Urgent, angry, dangerous. Dominic listened without interrupting, his stillness more frightening than any outburst. When they finished, he asked a single quiet question. Whatever answer he received made his jaw tighten. "Everyone out," he said. "Except Luca." The room cleared. "Tell her," Dominic ordered. Luca looked uncomfortable. "The Vidals made a move. They've been spreading information, true information about your connection to Mr. Castellano. Your name, your address, your schedule. They want you visible, vulnerable." My blood ran cold. "Why? Because they know I'll react." Dominic's voice was arctic. "They're testing my limits, seeing what I value enough to fight for." "And I'm valuable?" The question came out smaller than I intended. He turned from the window, and the look in his eyes stole my breath. "Apparently," he said softly, "I've made that obvious enough for them to notice." Luca shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, we should move her. The estate is more secure." "No, that tells them they're right." Dominic moved to his desk, pulled out a locked drawer, removed something I couldn't see. "We're going to send a different message."
"They're coming."
"What message?" I asked.
Won't hold much
He crossed to
longer.
me, knelt down so we were eye level, that gesture again.
Zenith.
The one that made him seem
Look
less like a
closely at the
Mafia
passage.
boss and more
It
like a
confirms
man trying not
everything
to
we
scare a
suspected.
wounded bird. In his hand was a small velvet box. "This isn't what you think," he said quietly. "But I need you to trust me." He opened it. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the light like a promise. My heart stopped. "If you wear this," Dominic continued, voice low and steady, "the Vitals will see it differently, not as a vulnerability to exploit, as a declaration of war. Attacking you would mean attacking my future, my family. It changes the calculation. You want to fake an engagement, I whispered. I want to protect you. His eyes searched mine. This is the fastest, most effective way to do that. But I won't force it. If you say no, we'll find another option. What other option? His silence was answer enough. I stared at the ring, at this man kneeling before me, offering a fake promise to save my real life, and felt the walls closing in from every direction. If I do this, I said slowly, what changes? Publicly, everything. You'll move into the estate, attend events with me, play the role. He paused. Privately, nothing you don't want to change. You'll have your own room, your own space. This is protection, Mia, not ownership. But everyone will think, let them. His hand found mine. Careful, gentle. Let them think I'm obsessed enough, possessive enough, that touching you means death. Because right now, that's the only thing keeping you alive. I looked at Luca, who nodded once confirmation that this insane plan might actually work. How long? I asked. Until the threat is neutralized. Dominic's thumb brushed over my knuckles. Weeks, maybe months, I don't know yet. And then you're free to go, with enough money to start over anywhere you want, clean, break. I'll make sure of it. He was offering me a way out. Eventually, after playing the role of his fiancée in a world where women were currency and love was leverage, I should have said no. Should have demanded witness protection, should have run to my corrupt uncle and taken my chances with federal custody. But I looked at Dominic, at the careful control fracturing around the edges, at the way his hand trembled slightly against mine, and realized he was terrified. Not of his enemies. Of my answer. Okay, I breathed. Something flashed in his eyes. Relief. Gratitude. Something darker that I didn't have a name for. He slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. You knew my size, I said, dazed. I know everything about you. He stood, pulling me up with him, his hand steadying me. I have for 6 months, but this is the first time I'm grateful for it. He turned to Luca. Make the calls. I want this public by tonight. And double the guards at the estate. If anyone gets within 100 yards of her, I want to know about it. Luca nodded and left. Alone, Dominic and I stood in his office. A fake engagement ring burning on my finger. The weight of what we'd just done settling over us. I'll have your things moved today, he said, slipping back into efficiency. Anything you need. Dominic. His name felt strange on my tongue. Intimate. Real. He stopped. Why me? I asked. Really? You could have fired me 6 months ago. Could have had me disappear. Why am I worth all this trouble? For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, so quietly, I almost missed it. Because when you looked at that board of photographs, you weren't afraid of what I'd done. You were afraid of what I might do to you. And I realized, he exhaled, a sound caught between regret and resignation. I realized I didn't want you to be afraid of me, even though you should be. He walked away before I could respond, leaving me standing in his office wearing a lie that felt more like truth than anything I'd experienced in months. That night, I moved into his estate. My room was in the east wing, far from his, connected by long hallways and older ghosts. It was beautiful, impersonal, a cage with silk sheets and bulletproof windows. I lay awake staring at the ring on my finger, listening to guards patrol outside, and wondered when exactly I'd stopped being a captive and become something far more dangerous. Complicit. The lie went public within 12 hours. Dominic Castellano, heir to the Castellano shipping empire, announces engagement to longtime associate Mia Chen. There were photos carefully staged by his publicist, showing us leaving a restaurant I'd never been to. My hand visible with the ring catching flashbulbs. Someone had photoshopped us together seamlessly. My phone exploded, old friends I hadn't spoken to in years. My roommate, confused and hurt that I hadn't told her. My mother, calling from Seattle, voice tight with worry disguised as excitement. And my uncle. 3 missed calls, 2 voicemails I couldn't bring myself to listen to. Don't answer him, Dominic said, appearing in the doorway of my new room. Not yet. Let him wonder. I set the phone down with shaking hands. He'll think I've betrayed him. You haven't. He stepped inside, maintaining careful distance. You've protected yourself. There's a difference. Is there? I gestured at the ring. I'm wearing your symbol, living in your house, lying to everyone I know. That sounds like betrayal to me. You're surviving. He moved to the window, hands in his pockets, a casual gesture that looked wrong on him, too human. That's not betrayal. That's adaptation. Easy for you to say. You're used to lying. Yes. The admission was quiet, but I've never pretended otherwise. You, on the other hand. He glanced back at me. You still think there's a version of this where you get to keep your innocence. There isn't. The words stung because they were true. How do you do it? I asked. Live with all the weight?
Yes, I will.
He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I don't. I just carry it until I can't anymore. Then I find someone else to carry it for me. He turned fully. That's what family means in my world. Shared burden. Shared guilt. I'm not your family. No. His eyes held mine. You're something worse. You're my conscience. Before I could process that, his phone rang. He answered in Italian, his expression darkening with every word. When he hung up, his mask had returned cold, controlled, dangerous. Get dressed. Something formal. We have a dinner tonight. What dinner? The kind where I remind everyone why they shouldn't touch what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it sent heat curling through my chest. The restaurant was the kind of place that didn't have prices on the menu. I wore a dress I'd never owned, delivered that afternoon by a stylist who'd appeared without warning. Black, elegant, expensive enough to make me afraid to sit down. Dominic wore a suit that probably cost more than my college education, looking every inch the dangerous heir to a criminal empire. We arrived in a motorcade. Guards flanked the entrance. Cameras flashed. His hand settled on the small of my back, and I felt the touch like a brand. Smile, he murmured near my ear. You're supposed to be in love with me. I'm supposed to be terrified of you, I whispered back. Same thing in my world. Inside, the restaurant had been reserved entirely for our party. 20 people, men in expensive suits. Women dripping in jewelry, all of them watching us with expressions ranging from curiosity to calculation. I recognized Dominic's father immediately. He sat at the head of the table, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, radiating the kind of power that didn't need to announce itself. So this is the girl, he said as we approached. Not a question, a judgment. Mia Chen, I said, extending my hand. It's nice to meet you properly, Mr. Castellano. He looked at my hand like it was something distasteful, then at his son. She has manners, at least, better than the last one. Dominic's hand tightened on my back a warning, though I didn't know for whom. The last one tried to have me killed, he said mildly. I have higher hopes for Mia. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. We sat. Courses appeared. Food I was too anxious to taste. Conversation flowed in Italian and English. Talk of shipping routes and political favors and things that sounded legal until you understood the subtext. I stayed silent, playing the role of the quiet fiancé, hyper-aware of every eye on me. Halfway through the meal, an older woman leaned toward me. You're very brave, she said in accented English, or very stupid. I haven't decided which. That seems to be the consensus, I replied quietly. She smiled. I'm Dominic's aunt. I've known him since he was born, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. My heart stuttered. How does he look at me? Like you're the only real thing in a room full of ghosts. She patted my hand. Be careful, dear. Men like him don't know how to love gently. They only know how to possess. After dinner, Dominic's father requested a private word with his son. I was left in a sitting room with the other women, feeling like an imposter in borrowed clothes. How did you meet? One asked, eyes sharp with curiosity. I was his assistant, I said, sticking to the cover story we'd prepared. It just happened. How romantic. Her tone suggested it was anything but. And your family? They approve? My family is complicated. Aren't they all? She sipped her wine. But surely your uncle, the prosecutor, must have interesting thoughts about you marrying into the Castellano family. The trap was so obvious even I could see it. My uncle and I don't discuss his work, I said carefully. Or mine? She smiled, diplomatic. Dominic chose well. I excused myself as soon as I could, escaping to the empty hallway. My hands shook. My chest felt tight. The weight of the lie, the scrutiny, the danger it was crushing. I found a balcony, stepped out into the cold night air, breathed. You handled that well. I turned. Dominic stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. Did I? My voice cracked. Because I feel like I'm drowning. He moved closer, blocking me from view of anyone inside. You're doing better than you think. I'm a terrible liar. No, you're an honest person trying to lie. There's a difference. His hand came up, hesitated, then settled on my shoulder. It gets easier, does it? I looked up at him. Or do you just forget what honesty feels like? Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe. Recognition. Yes, he said simply. His hand slid from my shoulder to my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone. The touch was so gentle it made my throat ache. I know this is hard, he said quietly. I know you didn't choose any of this, but you're safe here, with me. I promise you that much. Safe. The word tasted bitter. I'm in the middle of a Mafia dinner wearing a fake engagement ring, surrounded by people who'd kill me if they knew the truth. That's not safety. No. His thumb continued its careful path across my skin, but it's the closest thing to it you're gonna get. He was right. And that was the most terrifying part. Behind us, someone cleared their throat. Luca, expression carefully neutral. Sir. Your father wants to leave. Dominic's hand dropped. We'll be right there. Luca disappeared. Alone again, Dominic stepped back, rebuilding the distance between us. Tomorrow, you'll come to the office with me. Start learning the legitimate side of the business. If you're going to be my fiancé, you need to be able to discuss our operations convincingly. More lies, I said tiredly. More truth, actually. Most of what we do is legal. It's just the 10% that isn't that causes problems. He adjusted his cuffs, the gesture mechanical. Get used to the gray areas, Mia. They're all we have. That night, back at the estate, I lay awake in my beautiful prison, listening to footsteps in the hallway. Dominic, pacing. Unable to sleep either, I wondered if he was thinking about me, the way I couldn't stop thinking about him. Wondered if his hand remembered the shape of my face, the way my skin remembered his touch. Wondered when exactly I'd stopped being afraid of the lie and started being terrified it might become the truth. 3 weeks into our fake engagement, I began to forget it was fake. Small things blurred the line. The way Dominic's hand found mine automatically at public events. The habit he developed of texting me throughout the day, eaten yet? Remember to take your vitamins. Luca says you're working too late. The night he came to my room at 2 a.m, silent and haunted, and asked if he could just sit while I read. He stayed until dawn, neither of us speaking, his presence filling the space like a confession. This is dangerous, I told him one evening. We were in his study room I'd started to think of as ours, though I had no right to. He was reviewing contracts. I was supposed to be learning about import regulations. Instead, I was watching him, the way lamplight caught in his dark hair, the concentration in his expression, the rare, unguarded moments when he forgot to hide his exhaustion. What is, he asked, not looking up. This. Us. The way I struggled for words, pretending so well we're not pretending anymore. His pen stilled. For 3 heartbeats, he didn't move. Then he set it down carefully, and met my eyes. Who says I'm pretending? The air left my lungs. Dominic, I should be. He stood, moving to the window, his usual escape when emotions got too close. I should be able to keep this professional, transactional. That's how I've handled everything else in my life. He exhaled slowly. But with you, Mia, I don't want to. You don't mean that. Don't I? He turned, and the look in his eyes was raw. Honest in a way that terrified me. I've never brought anyone into this house, never given anyone access to my private spaces, never lost sleep worrying about someone's safety. He took a step closer, and I've certainly never looked at an assistant and thought about what it would be like to wake up next to them for real. My heart hammered against my ribs. This isn't real. It can't be. Why not? Because I gestured helplessly, because of what you are. What you do. I can't reconcile the man who brings me coffee with the one who has people killed. Then don't. Another step closer. Just accept that I'm both. That I can be gentle with you and ruthless with everyone else. That I can protect you from my world while keeping you in it. That's not love, I whispered. That's possession. Maybe. He stopped just before me, close enough that I could feel the heat of him. But it's the only version I know how to offer, and the terrifying part is, I think you might want it anyway. He was right. God help me, he was right. I should leave, I said weakly, before this gets more complicated. Too late. His hand came up, cupping my face with a tenderness that didn't belong in his world. It got complicated the moment I decided you were worth protecting, worth keeping. Worth. He stopped himself, jaw tightening. Worth what? Ruining my carefully controlled life for. The confession hung between us, fragile and dangerous. I should have pulled away, should have reminded him this was temporary, a performance, a necessary evil. Instead, I leaned into his touch. I think about you, I admitted, the words tumbling out before I could stop them, all the time. I know I shouldn't. I know it's dangerous and stupid, and he kissed me. Not rough, not demanding, gentle, almost hesitant, like he was asking permission I'd already given without realizing it. His mouth was warm against mine, tasting of whiskey and restraint. One hand cradled my face while the other settled at my waist, holding me like something precious that might break. I kissed him back. It was soft, slow, nothing like the passionate claiming I'd read about in books or seen in movies. This was something else, an acknowledgement, a surrender, a line crossed that we both knew we could never uncross. When he pulled back, his breathing was unsteady. His forehead rested against mine. I've wanted to do that for 2 months, he admitted roughly, since the day I found you in my office, terrified and brave and looking at me like I was a monster you wanted to understand. You are a monster, I whispered. I know. His thumb brushed my lower lip. But you kissed me anyway. I'm as broken as you are. No. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, achingly gentle. You're the only unbroken thing in my life, and I'm terrified of what I'll do to keep you that way. Someone knocked on the door sharp, urgent. Dominic pulled back immediately, his mask sliding into place. Come in. Luke entered, expression grim. We have a situation. The situation was a body, one of Dominic's men, found in the industrial district with a message carved into his chest. Return what you stole. What did we steal? I asked, watching Dominic pace his war room, a space in the estate basement I'd never seen before. Walls covered in maps and photographs and threat assessments. Nothing. His voice was ice, which means they're creating an excuse. For what? He met my eyes. War. The words settled over the room like a shroud. The Vitals are pushing, one of his advisors said. They want your territory, your routes. They're using your relationship as evidence that you're distracted, weak. I'm not weak. Dominic's voice could have cut glass. Then prove it. This from his father, who'd arrived within the hour. End the engagement. Send the girl away. Show them she means nothing. No. The single word echoed in the silence. His father's expression darkened. You're choosing a woman over the family. I'm choosing not to let them dictate my decisions. Dominic turned to face him fully. You taught me that appearing weak is worse than being weak. If I cave to their pressure now, they'll push harder. But if I stand firm, if I show them that touching her means certain death, they'll think twice. Or they'll kill her to prove a point. They can try. The threat in his voice made everyone in the room step back. Everyone except me. Maybe your father's right, I said quietly. Maybe I should go. This has gotten too... No. Dominic crossed to me in 3 strides, his hands framing my face, forcing me to look at him. You're not going anywhere. Do you understand me? I will burn this entire city down before I let them touch you. That's insane, yes. His eyes blazed. It is, but I'm well past sanity where you're concerned. His father made a disgusted sound. You're going to get us all killed over a girl you've known for 6 months, then leave. Dominic didn't look away from me. Anyone who can't accept my choice is free to go, but Mia stays. That's not negotiable. The room emptied slowly, lieutenants and advisors filing out in uncomfortable silence. His father lingered. You'll regret this. Probably. Dominic finally released me, turning to face his father, but I'd regret losing her more. After he left, we stood alone in the war room, surrounded by maps of violence and territory disputes, the weight of what had just happened settling over us. You can't mean that, I said. You can't risk everything for you? He smiled without humor. Watch me. Why? Because for the first time in 10 years, I care about something other than survival and power. He moved closer, his voice dropping. Because you make me want to be the man you see when you look at me, instead of the monster everyone else knows. His hand found mine, fingers threading through mine, because losing you would hurt worse than any bullet. Tears burned my eyes. That's not fair. No, he agreed softly, but it's the truth. That night, he walked me to my room, his hand never leaving the small of my back. At my door, he paused. Lock this, he said. Don't open it for anyone but me or Luca. You think they'll come here? I think they're desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. He brushed his thumb across my cheekbone, the gesture now familiar. Necessary, but I promise you, Mia, they'll have to go through me first. I grabbed his hand before he could leave. Dominic? Yes? I'm scared. Good. His smile was sad. Fear keeps you careful, and I need you careful. He kissed my forehead and left. I locked the door and leaned against it, listening to his footsteps fade, feeling the phantom warmth of his lips on my skin. Outside, a storm was coming, and I knew with absolute certainty that before it was over, someone was going to bleed. The attack came 3 days later. Not at the estate. Dominic had been right about that being too obvious. Instead, they went after one of his warehouses, destroying a shipment worth millions and leaving another message, you can't protect them all. I watched him take the call, watched his expression shudder into something cold and calculating, and knew that the tenuous peace we'd been living in was over. I need to go, he said, already reaching for his jacket. Then I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. You said I was supposed to learn the business. I stood my ground even though my hands shook. Show me. For a moment I thought he'd refuse. Then something shifted in his expression, resignation maybe, or recognition that I was already too deep to be sheltered from the worst of it. Stay close to me, he said, and if I tell you to run, you run. The warehouse district at midnight looked like something out of a nightmare. Smoke still curled from the destroyed building. Fire trucks were leaving. Police were conspicuously absent, paid off, probably, or warned away. Dominic's men had secured the perimeter. I stayed near him as he surveyed the damage, his face impassive but his hands clenched into fists. 2 million, one of his lieutenants reported, plus the building itself. And he hesitated. 3 of our men didn't make it out. Something flickered in Dominic's eyes. Pain, quickly suppressed. Their families, he asked quietly. Already being contacted. Full compensation package, as always. He nodded once, then turned to me. Still think I'm just a businessman? No. I met his gaze, but I never did. We drove back in silence, but instead of going to the estate, he directed Luca to a different address, a smaller property I'd never seen before, hidden behind high walls and older trees. Where are we? I asked as he led me inside. Somewhere no one knows about. He locked the door behind us, set the security system. A safe house. I need to think, and I can't do that at the estate with everyone watching. The house was smaller, less grand than his mansion. It felt more like a home warm, lived in, with books on shelves and art that looked chosen for love rather than status. I bought this 5 years ago, he said, pouring 2 glasses of whiskey. Thought I might need a place to disappear to if things went wrong. I've never brought anyone here. Why, me? He handed me a glass, his fingers brushing mine. Because you're the only person who's seen the worst of my world and hasn't run yet. And he exhaled slowly. I wanted one place that felt clean, that didn't smell like blood and business, and I wanted to share it with you. I sipped the whiskey, letting it burn away some of the fear. 3 men died tonight. Yes. Do you feel anything? Too much. He moved to the window, staring out at nothing. I knew their names, their families. I sent them there knowing it might be a trap and hoping I was wrong. His hand tightened on his glass. So yes, I feel it. I set down my drink and crossed to him. My hand found his back, feeling the tension in his muscles. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't be. He turned, and his eyes were haunted. This is the cost of what I am, what I do. You shouldn't have to witness it. But I am witnessing it. I'm part of it now, whether I wanted to be or not. I moved closer, driven by something I didn't want to examine too carefully. So stop trying to protect me from reality. I'm already here. His hand came up, catching mine where it rested on his chest. His heart beat rapidly beneath my palm, proof that he wasn't as controlled as he pretended. Mia. My name sounded like a warning. If you keep looking at me like that, I'm going to... To what? To stop being noble about this. His voice had gone rough. To stop pretending I can keep this professional. To take what I've wanted since the day you walked into my office wearing that ridiculous blue dress and trying so hard to impress me. I wasn't trying to impress you, I said, though my breathing had gone shallow. You were. His free hand settled on my waist, pulling me closer. And you did. You've been impressing me every day since. Your strength, your resilience, the way you adapt without losing yourself. His forehead dropped to mine. You're extraordinary, and I'm a selfish bastard for keeping you here. Then let me go. I can't. The admission was raw. God help me. I've tried to want to, and I can't. I tilted my face up, my lips a breath from his. Maybe I don't want you to. He made a sound low in his throat, surrender and relief and desire all tangled together, and kissed me. This wasn't like the first time. This was hunger held back too long, finally unleashed. His mouth claimed mine with intensity that stole my breath, his hands pulling me flush against him. I kissed him back with equal desperation. 6 months of tension and fear and unwanted attraction pouring into the contact. My fingers threaded through his hair. His hands mapped my back, my waist, everywhere he could reach without crossing lines we hadn't agreed to. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. We should stop, he said, though his hands didn't release me. Should we? My voice came out unsteady. I don't want to push you. Don't want you to do something because you're scared or grateful or... I kissed him again, cutting off his noble objections. When I broke away, I said, I'm kissing you because I want to. Because I'm tired of pretending I don't. Because... I hesitated, then took the leap. Because I think I'm falling for you, and that terrifies me more than anything else in this whole mess. Something broke and his expression control finally shattered. Mia. He cupped my face in both hands. If we do this, there's no going back. You understand that. No more pretending it's fake. No more easy exit. I know. And you still? Yes. My voice was barely a whisper, but it was enough. He kissed me again, slower this time, savoring. Then he took my hand and led me upstairs. The bedroom was simple, clean. More evidence that this place was his refuge from the performance of his life. He left the lights off, only moonlight filtering through the curtains, silver and soft. Tell me if you want to stop, he said, his hand settling on my waist. At any point. I mean that. I nodded, unable to find words. He kissed me again, his hands sliding up my sides, careful, asking permission with every touch. I helped him with my dress, my fingers trembling. He shed his shirt and I saw scars I'd never noticed. Proof of violence survived, battles won and lost. I traced one with gentle fingers. Does it hurt? Not anymore. He caught my hand, pressed a kiss to my palm. This scares me more than any of those ever did. Why? Because I survived those. but I don't know if I'll survive losing you." The vulnerability in his voice made my chest ache. I pulled him closer, and we tumbled onto the bed together, clumsy, human, real. He undressed me slowly, reverently, like I was something precious. His hands mapped my skin with a gentleness that seemed impossible from someone capable of such violence. Every touch asked, "Is this okay?" and waited for my soft yes before continuing. When he finally settled over me, his weight a comfort rather than a threat, he paused. "Last chance," he murmured against my lips. Instead of answering, I pulled him closer. It was slow, careful. Nothing like the passionate claiming I'd imagined. He moved like he was afraid of breaking me, whispering my name like a prayer, his hands never stopping their gentle exploration. There was a moment of discomfort, quickly soothed by his patience and care. He paused, checking, making sure I was okay. I nodded, gasping, and he continued with the same controlled gentleness. I didn't know intimacy could feel like this, safe and vulnerable at once. Powerful and soft, a claiming that felt more like a gift than a taking. Afterward, we lay tangled together, his heartbeat steady beneath my ear, his hand tracing lazy patterns on my shoulder. "No regrets?" he asked quietly. "No." I pressed a kiss to his chest. "You?" Only that I didn't do this sooner. He tilted my chin up, his eyes serious. "You're mine now. Not because of a ring or a lie. Because of this. Because you chose it. Chose me." The possessiveness should have frightened me. Instead, it felt like safety. "I'm yours," I whispered, and felt him shudder. "Say it again. I'm yours." He kissed me deep and claiming, and I felt the truth of it settle into my bones. We stayed in that safe house through the night, wrapped in each other, pretending that the world outside didn't exist. That there were no enemies, no threats, no impossible circumstances. For one night, we were just Dominic and Mia, not mafia boss and innocent girl. Not fake fiancé and captive. Just two people who'd found something real in the middle of a beautiful lie. In the morning, reality would return. But for those few hours, we belonged only to each other. Reality returned with gunshots. We were having breakfast in the safe house, something absurdly domestic. Dominic making eggs while I sat on the counter watching him, both of us pretending this could be normal when the security system screamed. Dominic moved instantly, shoving me toward the panic room. "Go. Now. Don't come out until I get you." "What about you? I'll be fine. Go." I ran, hearing him grab a weapon, hearing the front door explode inward, hearing voices shouting in Italian. The panic room was small, soundproofed, lined with monitors showing every angle of the house. I watched in horror as men flooded inside, 6 of them, armed, wearing masks, and I watched Dominic fight. I'd known abstractly that he was dangerous, but knowing and seeing were different things entirely. He moved like violence was a language he spoke, fluently, precise, efficient, brutal. 2 men went down before they could fire. A third tried to grab him and ended up with a broken arm. The 4th got a shot off, grazing Dominic's shoulder, and was immediately dropped with a bullet between the eyes. It was horrifying, mesmerizing. The man I'd been soft with last night was a weapon in human form, every motion calculated to kill. The last 2 tried to run. Dominic let one go. The other he caught by the collar, slamming him against the wall hard enough that I heard the impact through the monitors. "Who sent you?" His voice was lethal calm. The man spat at him. Dominic barely flinched. He did something with his hand. I couldn't see exactly what, and the man screamed. "Who sent you, Vitale?" the man gasped. "Marco Vitale. He said you'd be here, said the girl would be with you." Dominic went very still. "You were sent for her? Easier to kill you by killing what you love." He didn't finish the sentence. Dominic dropped him to the floor, lifeless, and turned toward the panic room. His face was spattered with blood. His shoulder bled from the gunshot, but his eyes when they found the camera were clear, urgent. "Mia, it's over. I'm coming to get you." The door opened. He stood there, this beautiful monster I'd given myself to. Blood on his hands, and murder in his past, and gentleness in the way he reached for me. "Are you hurt?" he asked, hands pattering over me, checking for injuries. "No, you are." I touched his shoulder and he winced. It's nothing. We need to move. If they found this place, nowhere is safe. He pulled out his phone, made rapid calls. Luca's coming. We're going to the state. It's the only place with enough security. They knew you'd be here, I said, my voice shaking. How did they know? His jaw tightened. Someone told them. Someone close enough to know about this house. A traitor. In his own organization. We waited for Luca in tense silence, Dominic positioned between me and the door, weapon in hand, his body a shield. When we finally made it to the estate, it was in full lockdown. Guards everywhere. Security systems on maximum. A fortress preparing for siege. Dominic's father was already there, face thunderous. This is what happens, he snarled the moment he saw us. This is what protecting her gets you. 4 more men dead. Your safe house compromised. And for what? For her life, Dominic said coldly, which is worth all of it. She's not family. She's mine. The words were quiet, absolute. And anyone who touches her dies. That's not negotiable. That's not up for debate. That's the law from this moment forward. His father looked at him like he was seeing a stranger. You've lost your mind. Maybe. Dominic's hand found mine, bloody fingers threading through mine, but I won't lose her. For the next 3 days, we lived under siege. The Vitals made their move attacking Castellano holdings across the city, trying to draw Dominic out. But he refused to leave the estate, refused to leave me unguarded. You're letting them win, his advisors argued. No, I'm choosing my battles. He sat in his war room, me curled in a chair beside him, and coordinated responses with brutal efficiency. They want me reactive, emotional, making mistakes. I won't give them that. But I saw the cost, the exhaustion in his eyes, the wound on his shoulder that he wouldn't rest long enough to heal properly, the weight of command crushing him bit by bit. On the 4th night, I found him on the estate's balcony, staring at the city lights. You should be inside, he said without turning. It's not safe out here. It's not safe anywhere. I moved to his side. That's the point, isn't it? You can't keep me safe forever. Not from this. I can try, and destroy yourself in the process. I touched his injured shoulder gently. You need to end this, Dominic, whatever it takes. Because this half-war is eating you alive. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, to end it, I'll have to do things that will make you see me differently. Worse, I've already seen you kill people. Not like this. He turned to face me. What's coming isn't defense, it's annihilation. When I move against the Vitals, it won't be strategic, it'll be total. And I'll do things that will give you nightmares. Then give me nightmares. I took his hands, held them even though they were scarred and dangerous and had ended lives. But survive. Because I can live with nightmares. I can't live with losing you. Something in his expression cracked. He pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. I don't deserve you. Probably not. I pressed my face into his chest. But you have me anyway. Mia. He pulled back just enough to look at me. When this is over, if we survive, I want this to be real. Not fake engagement. Not protection arrangement. Real. You and me, for as long as you'll have me. My heart stuttered. You're asking me to marry you? Actually marry you? Yes. No hesitation. No doubt. I'm asking you to choose this life, this mess, me permanently. I know that's insane. I know you should run, but I'm asking anyway. I should have said no. Should have told him I needed time, needed distance, needed to process everything that had happened. Instead, I said, yes. The word hung between us, a promise and a sentence. He kissed me like I was air and he'd been drowning, desperate and grateful and reverent all at once. When he pulled back, his eyes held something I'd never seen before. Hope. I'll finish this, he promised, and then we'll figure out what normal looks like for people like us. People like us, I repeated softly. You mean damaged? I mean survivors. He pressed his forehead to mine. I mean people who found something beautiful in the worst possible circumstances and decided it was worth fighting for. That night, He held me close, and I felt him planning, calculating, preparing for the violence he'd promised. And I held him back, knowing that the man I loved was about to become the monster everyone else already believed he was, but for me, to protect me, to build a future for us. And somehow that made all the difference. The war ended in blood. Dominic moved against the Vitals with precision and brutality that became legend. I didn't see most of it. He made sure of that, but I heard the stories afterward. Marco Vitale, found dead in his own home, surrounded by his guards, all executed. The Vitali family businesses systematically dismantled. Their allies, given a choice, switch sides or disappear. Most chose to switch sides. It took 2 weeks. When it was over, Dominic controlled more territory than his father had ever dreamed of. The Castellano name became synonymous with power that shouldn't be challenged. And my fiancé became the most dangerous man in the city. He came back to me different, harder around the edges. There was blood on his soul that no amount of washing could remove, and we both knew it. Is it done? I asked the night he finally returned to the estate. Yes. He poured himself 3 fingers of whiskey, drank it in one swallow. The Vitals are finished. The traitor in my organization has been handled, and every family in the city knows that touching you means death. How many people did you kill? He met my eyes. Do you really want to know? I thought about it. Then, no. Good. He poured another drink but didn't touch it, because I don't want you carrying that number. I crossed to him, took the glass from his hand, set it aside. Then I wrapped my arms around him from behind, pressing my face between his shoulder blades. I'm still here, I whispered. Still yours. That hasn't changed. His hands came up to grip mine where they rested on his chest. You shouldn't be. Too late. He turned in my arms and I saw the damage in his eyes. Guilt, exhaustion, the weight of violence justified but not forgotten. I need you to understand something, he said quietly. What I did, I'd do it again. Every bit of it. To keep you safe. To keep you with me. And I won't apologize for that. I'm not asking you to. You should be. His thumb brushed my cheek. You should be horrified. You should leave. That's what a sane person would do. Then I guess I'm not sane. I pulled his head down to mine, kissed him soft and slow. I guess I'm just in love with a monster. Mia? I love you. The words spilled out, inevitable. I know that's stupid and dangerous and probably going to end badly, but I do. I love you. For 3 heartbeats, he just stared at me. Then he crushed me against him, his face buried in my neck, his whole body shaking. Say it again, he demanded roughly. I love you. Again, I love you, Dominic Castellano. I love you. He kissed me then, and it tasted like desperation and relief and promises neither of us knew if we could keep. 2 months later, we married. Not a fake ceremony. Not a performance. Real vows, real rings, real forever. The wedding was small, just his family and a few trusted friends. No press. No spectacle. Just us, promising to navigate this impossible life together. My uncle didn't come. Hadn't spoken to me since news of the engagement went public. I tried not to let it hurt, but it did. He'll come around, Dominic said, adjusting my veil. Or he won't. Either way, you have a family now. His family. The Castellanos. A dynasty built on blood and power and secrets. I was part of it now, for better or worse. Ready? He asked, offering his arm. I looked at him, this beautiful, dangerous man who turned my life upside down and somehow made me grateful for it. Yes, I said, and I meant it. The ceremony was short, traditional. When Dominic slipped the ring on my finger, a real one now, not the fake protection, his hand trembled slightly. I promise, he said softly, his vows finished, to keep you safe, to keep you happy, to be worthy of this gift you've given me. Even if I fail at everything else, I'll succeed at loving you. I cried. Then I said my vows, promising to stand by him, to see him clearly, to love all the broken pieces he tried to hide. We kissed, and it felt like sealing a pact with the universe. That night in his room, our room, now he made love to me with a reverence that stole my breath. My wife, he murmured against my skin. Mine. Yours, I agreed, always yours. But not everything was perfect. The violence had consequences. Dominic's father never forgave him for choosing me over family unity. Some of the old guard resented my presence, saw me as a weakness, and there were threats. There would always be threats. A month after the wedding, someone tried to poison me at a charity gala. Dominic had my food tested now, had tasters check everything before it reached my plate. 3 months after that, a rival family sent a message, a threat involving graphic details of what they'd do if they ever got their hands on me. Dominic's response was swift and brutal. We lived in a beautiful cage, safe but never free. Do you regret it? I asked him one night, lying in the darkness. Marrying me? Never. His arms tightened around me. But I regret that this is the life I can give you. You deserved better. I chose this. Chose you. I know. He pressed a kiss to my temple. And I spend every day trying to be worth that choice. He was. Even with the darkness, the danger, the constant vigilance, he was worth it. Because in the quiet moments, he was gentle, tender, mine. Because he made me coffee every morning, remembered how I took it. Because he held me when I had nightmares about the violence I'd witnessed. Because he looked at me like I was the only light in his dark world. And maybe that was enough. Maybe love in the shadows was still love. 1 year after I became Mia Castellano, my uncle contacted me. The email was brief. Can we talk? I think I owe you an explanation. I showed it to Dominic over breakfast. He read it, expression, unreadable. It could be a trap, or he could just want to talk to his niece. After a year of silence, people change. I met his eyes. You did. He considered that, then nodded slowly. Public place. I'll have guards nearby. And if he says one thing that sounds like a threat, I know. I squeezed his hand. Thank you. We met at a coffee shop downtown Neutral Territory. My uncle looked older than I remembered. Tired. Mia. He stood when I arrived. Thank you for coming. You asked. We sat. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I've been working on the Castellano case for 3 years, he finally said, trying to bring down the organization, trying to get justice for the people they've hurt. He looked at me. And then you married one of them. I married Dominic, I corrected. A person. Not a crime statistic. Is he, though? A person? Or is he just another criminal who's good at wearing a mask? I thought about Dominic, about the man who held me when I cried, who learned to make my favorite tea, who'd burn down half the city to keep me safe. He's both, I said, and I love him anyway. My uncle shook his head. I don't understand. I know, but I need you to try. I leaned forward. I know what he is, what he does. I'm not naive. But I also know he's capable of goodness, of gentleness, of love. And that has to count for something. Does it? When he's still running the same operations, still hurting people? He's trying to change things, make the business more legitimate. It's slow and it's hard, but he's trying. I paused. Because I asked him to. That was true. In the months since the war, Dominic had been shifting away from the most violent operations, selling off the drug routes, focusing on legitimate shipping. It wasn't perfect, would probably never be perfect, but it was progress. And if he can't change, my uncle asked, if this is just who he is, then I love who he is. I met his eyes. I know that's not what you want to hear, but it's the truth. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I've dropped the investigation. I blinked. What? Not because of you. Because I realized the people funding it were worse than the people I was investigating. He smiled bitterly. Turns out everyone in this city is dirty. I was just too self-righteous to see it. I'm sorry. Don't be. It's clarifying, actually, accepting that the world isn't black and white. He reached across the table, squeezed my hand briefly. Be careful, Mia. Even if you love him, especially because you love him, I will. We talked for another hour about small things, safe things, rebuilding a relationship that had fractured. It wasn't perfect. It probably never would be, but it was a start. That night, I told Dominic about the conversation. "He's not coming after us?" he asked, surprised. "No. He's made peace with it, I think. Or at least accepted it. That's more than I expected." He pulled me into his arms. "I'm glad. I know you missed him." I did. I looked up at him. "Are you really trying to go legitimate?" "As much as I can." His hand traced patterns on my back. "There are parts of the business I can't change without losing everything. But the worst parts, yes. I'm phasing those out. Because I asked? Because you make me want to be better." He pressed a kiss to my forehead. "Because I want our children, if we have them, to inherit something other than blood and violence." Children. The word made my heart stutter. "Is that something you want?" I asked. "Kids? With you?" He smiled, rare and genuine. "Yes. Eventually. When things are more stable. And when will that be? Maybe never." He was honest at least, but we'll figure it out. 3 months later, I found out I was pregnant. I told Dominic in his office after hours, both of us exhausted from a long day. He stared at me for 5 full seconds. Then he dropped to his knees, pressed his face against my stomach, and cried. "I'm terrified," he admitted roughly. "I don't know how to be a father. Don't know if I should be." "We'll figure it out," I said, echoing his words. "Together." He looked up at me, tears on his face, and I saw the full weight of what we'd chosen: love in the midst of darkness, hope despite the odds, a family built on broken foundations. "I love you," he said. "God, Mia, I love you. I know." I ran my fingers through his hair. "I love you too." Our daughter was born on a Tuesday morning, perfect and tiny and impossibly precious. Dominic held her with the same careful gentleness he used with me, looking at her like she was the most fragile thing in the world. "Isabella," he whispered, "after my grandmother." "It's perfect," I agreed. Outside the hospital, guards stood watch. In the city, the Castellano name still carried weight, still inspired fear. But in that room, we were just a family. Imperfect. Complicated. Real. "Promise me something," I said, watching him with our daughter. "Anything. Promise me you'll teach her to be strong, to choose her own path, to never let anyone, not even us, control her." He looked at me understanding. "I promise. It wouldn't be easy. We'd have to navigate this world carefully, raise a daughter in the shadow of violence and power, teach her to be gentle without being weak. But if anyone could do it, we could, because we'd chosen each other against all odds, because we'd found love in the darkest places, because we'd survived the worst and were still standing, still together, still hopeful. Years later, I would look back on that day in Dominic's office, the day I found the photographs, the day everything shattered, and wonder what would have happened if I'd walked away, if I'd quit that day, if I'd gone to the police, if I'd chosen safety over whatever insane instinct had made me stay. But I didn't walk away. I chose the dangerous path, the complicated man, the love that shouldn't have existed but did anyway. And yes, there were consequences. There were always consequences. We lived with guards, with threats, with the knowledge that violence was always one wrong move away. But we also lived with love, with loyalty, with fierce, imperfect devotion. Dominic never stopped being dangerous, but he also never stopped being gentle with me, protective of our daughter, determined to build something better from the ruins of what he'd inherited. The city still whispered about us, the reluctant Mafia wife, the boss who'd burned the world for love. Let them whisper. I was Mia Castellano now, wife, mother, survivor. I'd walked into darkness expecting death and found life instead. And I'd do it again, every single time.